Are we still in a seller's market, or is it a buyer's market? How can I tell? Hi, I'm Tim Tyler, a broker salesperson with Coldwell Banker Realty in Maplewood, New Jersey, and a licensed real estate instructor. And in this episode of House Talk, I'm going to explain how we define buyers and sellers markets. Since at least 2020, we've been in a seller's market. That is, a market where the demand for properties from buyers outpaces the supply of homes in the market. In a seller's market, buyers are competing for the limited inventory and have less bargaining power in negotiations, since there is likely another buyer out there who would meet any demands the seller makes. In this type of market, sellers favor cash offers or conventional financing, where concerns over appraisal and required repairs that may accompany an FHA or a VA appraisal are avoided. In particularly intense sellers markets, like the one we had in 2021, sellers look for buyers to waive inspections, to offer longer-term closings, or a rent-back arrangement to allow the seller time to find their own next home. Sellers are also less willing to accept an offer that includes a contingency for the buyer to sell their current home before closing. On the other hand, in a buyer's market, buyers have the upper hand in negotiations. In this situation, there are more properties available for sale than there are buyers to purchase these properties. In these market conditions, sellers must offer greater incentives to get buyers to choose their house over other houses on the market. Buyers markets often see sellers offering to pay buyers' closing costs or pay mortgage points to reduce the buyer's monthly mortgage payment. When interest rates are particularly high, as they often are in a buyer's market, sellers with an assumable mortgage can leverage their own lower interest rate to help sell the home. In these markets, buyers also have the leverage to demand repairs or sometimes even upgrades to a home as part of the sale. So how do we determine which type of market we're in? In general, if there are more sellers than buyers, we're in a buyer's market. And if there are more buyers than sellers, we're in a seller's market. It's fairly easy to determine how many sellers there are by looking at the number of listings in the multiple listing service. Unfortunately, it's much more difficult to determine the number of buyers that are looking. There is no central repository of information about the buyers, so we have to use indirect methods to determine the relationship between the number of buyers and sellers. The most common indicator used is the number of days on market. That is the average number of days between when a home comes onto the multiple listing service and when it goes into contract. A balanced market, one that favors neither the buyer nor the seller, is said to be represented by days on market of between 120 and 180 days. Now, for anyone who's been house hunting in the last 3 years, that sounds completely absurd. But that is how long houses tend to stay on the market when buyers and sellers are approximately equal. Less than that, and we have a seller's market. More than that, and we have a buyer's market. So what type of market do we have today? Well, for the homes along the Midtown Direct train line, for the month of June, we had an average 22 days on market, which is still a pretty strong seller's market. If you're thinking of selling or buying a home along the Midtown Direct train line or anywhere in Morris, Essex, or Union County, give me a call or shoot me a text at 973-462-4079. I'm ready to help. And remember, when you find Tim, you'll find home.